Amber Calzada, Julia Freifeld,
Craig Anderson,
Nikki Swinkles.
Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Amber Calzada.
and I'm Julia Freifeld.
Today we will be discussing the regulation of the ever so controversial topic of lowering the legal drinking age. We've headed out to the happiest city in America, San Luis Obispo, California. This small town is famous for their beaches, vineyards, farmers market, and exceptional university, Cal Poly. But what do the citizens have to say about this matter? We've sent our best two reporters, Craig Anderson and Nikki Swinkles, to find out. Let's head over to the streets of SLO.
Thanks, Amber. So, sir, when was the nationwide drinking age made 21?
1922.
1922? Wow. Okay.
Now I'm here with third-year math major Victoria at Cal Poly. When did the nationwide drinking age become 21?
I think sometime in the 80s.
So, what does MLDA stand for?
I believe MLDA stands for Modern Lower Drinking Age.
All right, thank you very much. So what does MLDA stand for?
I think it stands for Mothers Love Dinner Again.
Okay.
Here with Matthew, a third-year Cal Poly student. What do you think MLDA stands for?
MLD, I think that one is minors that like to drink and do alcohol. Sounds about right.
And for you, sir, what did the 21st Amendment do?
It legalized Mexicans in the United States.
Legalize Mexicans in the United States. Okay. That's a good
Thanks, Craig and Nikki. Those were some insightful answers. Now let's head over to our expert, Maddie, to discuss in more detail the history of the legal drinking age.
The history of the national minimum drinking age in the United States begins with the repeal of the prohibition in 1933 with the 21st Amendment. This made it so all states could set the drinking age to whatever they desired. Most states at this time set it to 21 to parallel the voting age at this time. However, in 1971, the 26th Amendment was passed, which lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. At this time, 30 states then lowered their drinking age to 18 to match this lower in the voting age. As of 1982, only 14 states had a minimum legal drinking age of 21. After they lowered the drinking age to 18, a lot of states saw an increase in traffic accidents among youths. This prompted a citizens' effort to raise the drinking age back to 21. In 1984, President Ronald Reagan passed the National Minimum Drinking Age Act. This prompted states to raise their drinking age to 21, or else they would lose 10% of their federal highway funds. By 1988, all states had a minimum legal drinking age of 21.
Thanks, Maddie. Let's head over and see what the societal effects of lowering the legal drinking age are.
What does it mean to be a legal adult in the United States?
Legal adult, I would say they have to be 18 and they have to have swag. They have to be able to drink and party hard.
Wow, that's a swag answer right there. So what do you think it means to be a legal adult in the United States?
A legal adult in the United States. Explain that to me.
So, typically in the U.S., age 18 is when people can become legal adults, but the drinking age is 21 years old.
That's
so,
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous?
Yes, if you can go get your ass blown to shit, you should be able to have a shot of Jack Daniels with a Heineken.
Wow, I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that, but we'll learn more about this topic right now.
Well, the American Psychological Association states that adolescence ends around 19, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a 21-year-old is more mature than an 18-year-old, because maturity is based on experiences. This brings us to the next idea that alcohol should be introduced at an earlier age so that teens can develop the appropriate behavior around drinking, seeing as there is a huge drinking problem, especially on college campuses. Some might also argue that at the age of 16, you take on the huge responsibility of being able to drive a car, and by the time you're 18, you can vote and even enlist in the Army. So the definition of adulthood is very subjective, but it's definitely a question that our nation needs to reconsider.
Now let's dive a little deeper into society's influence on lowering the drinking age and talk more specifically about sexual assault on college campuses.
Does drinking play a role in sexual assault on college campuses?
because when we hear about sexual assault on campus, it's mainly in relationship to people being at parties and under the influence of alcohol.
Does drinking add to sexual assault crimes on college campuses?
Probably.
Do you think drinking adds to sexual assault on college campuses?
Yeah, but I don't think it's just like limited to college kids. I think that's just like, when you drink, you get sexual.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you very much. Let's find out more about this question right now.
I would like to point out that at least 50% of college students' sexual assaults are associated with alcohol use. Alcohol's psychological, cognitive, and motor effects contribute to sexual assault. Research also suggests that alcohol consumption by the perpetrator and the victim increases the likelihood of acquaintance sexual assault. It's unclear whether changing the drinking age would prevent sexual assaults, but it is clear that alcohol plays a main role in date rape. But what could affect the staggering statistics of how prevalent date rape is educational programs set up to teach minors how to consume alcohol in the safest possible way.
Thanks, Maddie. Let's learn about the other societal effects lowering the legal drinking age has, specifically on binge drinking.
What's your definition of binge drinking?
So I know it's different for men and women, but it's usually around 3 consecutive drinks for women and 5 for men.
Okay. And for you, sir, what is your definition of binge drinking?
Drinking too much.
So what is your definition of binge drinking?
My definition of binge drinking is probably someone that drinks a lot, like very regularly, and gets probably quite a bit too drunk for their own well-being.
Okay, yeah, that's a good answer. What is your definition of binge drinking?
I think binge drinking is when you drink so much you black out all at once, and then you do something really dumb and throw up all over your friend's bed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now let's head on over to our expert Leah as she will discuss binge drinking in more detail.
Let's start with the definition of binge drinking. Binge drinking is when a person's blood alcohol content, BAC, is 0.08% or above. This typically happens when men consume 5 or more drinks, and when women consume 4 or more drinks in the span of about 2 hours. Now, consider this. About 90% of the alcohol consumed by youth under the age of 21 in the US is in the form of binge drinking. This is caused by many different factors, but generally it's a result of underage drinkers being inexperienced and not knowing their limits. In terms of reform, many people are concerned that if the drinking age is lowered, then a trickle-down effect may occur, where binge drinking may become prevalent amongst even younger demographics, such as middle schoolers.
What are your opinions on lowering the drinking age to 18?
I honestly don't think that should take place because sometimes it's exciting when you're younger and under the legal drinking age to drink, and if we lower the drinking age, then even younger kids will be drinking. That's just my personal theory, but...
Okay, thank you, Riley. If we were to lower the drinking age to 18, how would you stop the trickle-down effect?
I think you'd have to start with the middle schoolers and start implementing programs into public schools so they're aware. So you know how they do sex ed in like 6th grade and 7th grade? You'd want to start doing like alcohol abuse and all that. Start early.
Also, like in other cultures like Europe, drinking isn't really a problem because since an early young age, they can have like little sips of it. So in a way, like stop it from being a taboo. That would be like a really good thing to do, like having family members talk about it and have it be a subject that is like easy to talk about and discuss.
So if we were to lower the drinking age to 18, how would you stop the trickle-down effect?
I think that if the drinking age was lowered, the trickle-down effect would work with anything, but like in high school people drink, everybody drinks. I don't think it would be that big of a problem. I think it'd help decrease binge drinking, like if anything.
Awesome, thank you very much. And for you, sir, is America's drinking culture healthy?
I don't think so. I don't know what you can do about it.
Yeah, well, let's find out.
A CNN article discussed the effects of the impacts of the 1984 Act to raise the nationwide drinking age to 21. This article discusses how the policy was effective in reducing the number of drunk driving related accidents, but there was a survey found that a couple years after the law was passed, there was an increase in underage drinking.
Do you think there are more alcohol-related deaths on or off the road?
Off the road?
Off the road, okay.
This rise in underage drinking was attributed to the fact that drinking became more appealing to teens because their brains naturally seek out risk more so than the brains of adults. It's also important to recognize that driving under the influence is a serious issue, but more than 3/5 of alcohol-related deaths happen off the road. Therefore, a culture change needs to take place in order for there to be a decline in deaths both on and off the road.
Now that we've learned a little bit about how lowering the drinking age will affect society, let's switch gears and learn how it will affect businesses.
Thanks, Amber. So, for you, sir, what are some positive effects of lowering the drinking age to 18 would have on businesses?
Well, I would say that businesses would get more revenue and their profits would increase.
Anything else at all?
That's the only one I can think of.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
What are the positive effects of lowering the drinking age on businesses?
I think that the positive effects are obviously generating more revenue because you have a larger age base to pull from. Another interesting thing that businesses could probably gain from is the tax revenue from all of the young people buying alcohol.
So what are some negative effects of lowering the drinking age to 18 would have on some businesses?
I feel like one of the main effects would be that regular customers might not be inclined to show up as much because there'd probably be a lot more people coming to the business and they might get that closer connection with the employers or whatever the establishment may be.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's something there. Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
What are the negative effects of lowering the drinking age on businesses?
So now new businesses would suddenly have a lower crowd coming in and regulars wouldn't be as inclined to come in because suddenly they have rowdier crowds and it changes the atmosphere within the restaurants and businesses.
Wow, those were a lot of great points. Let's get some clarification from one of our experts.
Lowering the drinking age can have both positive and negative effects on businesses in the United States. Because of the increase in alcohol consumers between the ages of 18 and 20, establishments such as bars, restaurants, and liquor stores will experience a rise in customer volume as well as profits. Along with the private businesses receiving an increase in revenue, the government will also receive an increase in taxes on these alcoholic products. Lowering the drinking age also creates a ripple effect on the economy, having a positive effect on the alcoholic beverage, construction, and farming industries. Because more consumers are available to purchase alcohol, these industries will experience a surge of job creation and an increase in profits. Although there are many positives to lowering the drinking age, there are also some negatives as well. Allowing a younger crowd into the bars may deter older, more economically inclined regulars. These younger, sometimes immature consumers may cause a decrease in businesses for some local bars and restaurants.
Wow, Julia, I'm learning a lot.
I bet our viewers are too.
Let's see how the government plays a role in this.
So do you think it's the federal government or the state's government's responsibility to set the legal drinking age?
Honestly, I don't even care since I'm over 21 already.
Well, that's good to know. Do you think it's the federal government or the state's government's responsibility to set the drinking age?
Federal.
Federal? All right, thank you. Let's find out more about this question.
So a major role the government has played in regulating the MLDA is when they passed in 1984 the National Drinking Age Act. So this prompted states to raise their minimum legal drinking age to 21, and if states weren't willing to comply, they had the authority to take away 10% of their highway state funds. So take for example South Dakota. They originally allowed for 19-year-olds to purchase beer, but once this act was passed, they felt that the government was overstepping its boundaries and it was just unfair. So they took it to court, and in a 7-2 ruling, the Supreme Court said that the government did indeed have the authority to take away highway funding under the spending clause. Unfortunately, even though this act was passed, there is a lot of underage drinking. In 2001, they found that $22.5 billion were attributed to underage drinking sales. So it's clear that if the drinking age were lowered, we would get a lot more tax revenue. As of now, this issue is in stage 3 of the regulatory life cycle simply because government rules are being imposed, but the costs don't necessarily outweigh the benefits. It's just more of a subjective matter.
Thanks, Dr. Matthew. Now let's learn about some of the benefits and risks of lowering the drinking age.
So what do you think some risks would be if we lowered the drinking age to 18?
I think it would be a problem because an 18-year-old should or would not be as mature as a 21-year-old.
Okay, that's a good answer. And for you, do you think there'd be some benefits if we lowered the drinking age to 18?
I can't see any. I can't think of any benefits other than for the 18-year-olds.
Do you guys have anything else to add at all to this topic?
Well, I can tell you that the drinking age in Europe is 18 years old, and it has always been that way. For beer, it has been 16 years old, and I guess the effects, if you ask for effects, what it has on the youth itself, it's hard to judge if it has negative effects. However, I would think in America you're used to 21 years, and so why not leave it that way?
Exactly.
Although, I do know there have been studies that show that teenage brains are different than adult brains. And so they just don't have the same judgment that adults do. When you reach 21, you're getting into that adult brain where your inhibitions are more pronounced than when you're 16. So 16-year-olds are more likely to get bombed.
Yeah. Now that is probably true. The other problem that you have is that the gray cells that you kill off with alcohol, even though they get replenished, will have an effect later on. And that's why I speak with an accent, because I drank beer.
Oh, wow. Well,
so if you drink enough beer, you'll get a really cool accent.
I better start drinking right now then. Back to you guys.
Wow, so that was a lot we heard about. What do you think?
I must say, after learning all of this information, I am in favor of lowering the drinking age to 18. You know, it just seems like it would increase alcohol purchase, and that would increase revenue, which would, in return, stimulate the economy. And with tough times like these, we need a solution.
You know, I have to disagree with you. After hearing everything, I'm definitely not in favor of lowering it. I think we should keep it at 21. There are so many other ways to go about solving the problem. Like, we could increase taxes, cut government spending, but this discussion is for another time and place.
I must point out that overall, if we view 18-year-olds in society as legal adults and they are willing and able to go and fight for our country and potentially die, they should be able to purchase alcohol as well as all 18-year-olds nationwide.
You know, I agree with you on that. But 18 is such a crucial age for development. The prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until an individual is 25. And the prefrontal cortex allows an individual to make decisions. So obviously that's something that would really affect society. Do you care about the well-being of our nation?
So the next point I would like to make in favor of lowering the drinking age is that if we were to lower it to 18, that would promote a safer environment for children to start drinking. You know, if it's at 18, they're probably still living at home, which would encourage parents to create a safe environment, and this would also decrease unsafe drinking activities such as house parties, college parties, and unsupervised places.
That's true. We all saw what happened to that poor town last St. Patrick's Day, but it's also shown that bars and nightclubs might not be the most safe environments. 76% of bars have sold alcohol to obviously intoxicated individuals, and half of drivers involved in traffic crashes did their drinking at licensed establishments. So I feel like this point really goes back and forth. There's not really any solution to what we can do for that.
Commercial break.
Welcome back. We were right in the middle of our debate of lowering the legal drinking age. I am against it. Julia is for it. Let's continue.
I just want to make a few final points towards my wanting of lowering the drinking age. So the first one is that the American Psychology Association claims that adolescence ends around the age of 19. So keeping the drinking age at 21 is inconsistent with this finding. The next point I'd like to make is that there are actually fewer drunk driving traffic incidences and fatalities in many countries that have the minimum legal drinking age at 18 currently. And I think this might be because having the legal drinking age at 18 reduces the thrill of drinking.
Now, those are some very good points that you made, but going back to what you said about the APA of adolescence ending around 19, lowering it to 18 would really be harmful to those individuals because within that 1 year development, it is so crucial to the development of the prefrontal cortex. Also, having a legal drinking age of 21 actually reduces traffic accidents and fatalities. It is estimated that an MLDA of 21 decreased the number of fatal traffic accidents for 18 to 20-year-old individuals by 13%. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that's a pretty critical number. Also, the European countries show higher amounts of binge drinking and intoxication in youths. And should we really have these European countries as a role model? Is that something we want to be promoting within our nation?
That is quite an interesting point.
Now,
after reviewing all of the information we've gathered today and, going back and forth debating the topic, I would just like to know, what do you think is the most realistic way that we can tackle this, difficult topic?
Well, much to my disheartening, I think that we all know that teenagers, they're going to drink. Underage individuals, they're going to drink. There's nothing really we can do. But being realistic, there is something that we can do to help them. If this is something that the government plans on doing, lowering the legal drinking age to 18, then they need to have strict government regulation. They need to have education starting at the middle school level. If they wait until high school, it could be too late and there could already be detrimental effects in society. So we need to ask ourselves, are we going to be realistic or are we going to avoid the problem?
So I think it's safe to say we both agree on the overall consensus that if we do lower the drinking age, there needs to be educational programs implemented by the government. Thank you today for tuning in with us, and I hope you have a great evening.